Hi, everybody, and welcome to the show. It is a fabulous Friday for me, and hopefully for you too. I'm sure it will be, because today we have Dr. Don Ardell. Now, you might not know who he is, but boy, oh boy, when you find out, you're going to be embarrassed that you don't know, okay? So hang on, I'm not bringing him in yet. You know how I do. I have to give you the foundation of who I'm bringing in and a little story, and then you're not going to hear as much me. You're going to hear more Don. But about 5 years ago, I was working with one of my most loved human beings on this earth, Chitra Prasad Patel, and her husband, Vim, who started Evolve Personal Health. And Chitra was going to school at the time. She was taking a course to become a well-certified coach, I believe. Like, don't quote me on that one, okay? And then she calls me, like, she was just ecstatic to tell me about this man named Don Ardell, who was in this book that she was studying. She's like, and you're not gonna believe it, he lives here in Tampa Bay. I said, well, Chitra, we got to find him. So we go on this hunt for Don Ardell. And Chitra writes this beautiful email that I still have that I will send to you so you can read it. It was very nice. I don't know, I don't remember exactly what she was asking for. Maybe for you to be on the board of whatever she was doing. It doesn't matter because now she has an app. She's completely changed her business model. But we have loved everything that you've written, and we know more about you than you think, which isn't scary. All right, maybe a little bit. But I'm so honored to have you here. And then I went on the Global Wellness Summit just the other day, which I do every summit that they have, every conference call that they have about wellness. This one was about mental wellness. And the host says, Don Ardell, could you jump in and say hello? I thought I was going to fall off my chair. And then I took opportunity and I sent a private message. And now today we are here together. Everybody finally say hello to Don Ardell.
Wow, that was a great introduction. It said that it's not so, if you're giving a speech, it's not so important to write your own speech or to do your own speech, but it's crucial that you write your own introduction. You think I wrote that for you, but I never heard it before. That's
right. So I wanted it to be authentic to you. So I'm going to tell you just a little bit about Don. He's only written 15 books, and he's only done 11 marathons. How many triathlons, Don?
a few hundred, probably.
A few hundred. Okay. You have written over 1,000 wellness reports, previously called AWR and now called RWR, correct?
Correct.
Wow, I'm impressed with myself.
AWR was simply my name, Ardell Wellness Reports. And then because wellness was used in so many varied ways and was beginning to lose its meaning, I created a concept that's more specifically targeted to what I wanted wellness to be about and always was about. And my wife actually suggested an acronym because these are the acronym, the letters of the acronym characterize the 4 major dimensions of what I think wellness should be about. And so that means it's now RWR, which means Real Wellness Report. And REAL stands for reason, exuberance, athleticism, which is both exercise and nutrition, and liberty, which is personal freedoms, living your life the way you want to live it.
Yeah.
Creating environments that support the way you want to live your life.
Yes. Well, when Chitra and I were kind of, digging in to find out more about you, we're kind of glad it didn't work out the way we had intended it, because as everybody can imagine, you've been talking about wellness 1977 sound about right?
74.
74. Sorry. So a long time. And for wellness, that just the word itself to be so thrown around is probably insulting to you. So I want to talk about a few things. I love the acronym about real wellness. I think it's great. You have another acronym that I really like, RGF.
Oh, RGF?
Random good fortune.
Oh, yeah.
And that was,
there are so many things that affect our health. And the one that gets too little attention and might be most consequential of all is what you just said, random good fortune, if it is good. And
yeah.
if you're born in a Western society, you're off to a head start. If you're born to parents who can give you a good education and other opportunities, again, life's not fair, you're off to a really great start. And for every day, from the time you're born till it ends, there are things that affect you for better or worse, most of which you don't even know about, that make randomness a vital ingredient. But of course, you can't control it. So you have to focus on other areas that you can somewhat control, such as the choices you make.
Yeah. And
how you live.
Right. Well, how I found RGF was reading the 2015 incident that you had while running in St. Pete. So your random good fortune that day was that you happened to fall, and the person that came to help you was a cardiologist.
Well, you didn't mention you make it sound better than I deserve. The reason that was such good fortune, besides the fact that a cardiologist showed up, is that I was in denial and said, when passerbys offered to assist, I said, leave me alone, would you? I'm fine. I just tripped, I suppose. And then they pointed out that I was bleeding and my face was kind of droopy. But I'd hear none of it until this character came along and told me he was a tourist and he happened to be a cardiologist and I was having a stroke.
Yeah, I mean, really and truly, it was such a great read. I mean, that was AWR number 714 from 2015, that you're out running, and what a great act of grace. I mean, that's all I could think of. But I love the fact that you were telling everybody about what good health we're in. You're like, listen, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm fine. I'm just having a
total denial. Anyone who wants the story, I'll be happy to send it via email.
Oh, good. Because it really is a great story. And really, do you still keep in touch with that doctor?
I never was able to get in touch with them. I'd made huge efforts. I even sent letters, but they have confidentiality things and they will not release the names of anyone who calls an ambulance. Isn't that amazing? I could listen to the conversation. They let me listen to it. But he was from Vermont. I knew that much, but I didn't know where. And I wrote to the Vermont medical societies to try to get it. Couldn't do it.
What a bummer. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking that, but wouldn't it be great if he knew how much that moment meant, and that we're talking about it 5 years later, right?
Yeah. Actually, I even knew someone, a third party who lived in Vermont, who worked with or had associations with the Vermont medical societies. And he said, no worries, Don, I'll find it out in 10 minutes. And he called me and said, I can't get it. So maybe this guy was just a regular Joe Blow who said he was a cardiologist. He just wanted me to get
that.
I never thought about this before. He just wanted me to get an ambulance.
Right. He just pretended to be one so you'd listen. That's awesome. All right. So let's talk about, there was another wonderful quote that I loved from that same newsletter that you wrote. And it's, modern medicine is a wonderful thing, but there are two problems. People expect too much of it and too little of themselves.
That actually is in my first book, High Level Wellness, an Alternative to Doctors, Drugs, and Disease. And if I'm ever in a book of quotes, that's the one that's going to get me there.
I love this book. I mean, that really, really, really hit me. I've thought about the truth behind that, but I've never been able to put it together so well. So you can just expand upon what do you mean by that? I mean, it's obvious to me, but tell everybody what you mean.
Well, that applied in 1976, and it didn't go out of fashion. It's still true and more so than ever. A modern medicine's a wonderful thing in the sense that it's mind-boggling what they can do. For one thing, keep someone who had a stroke from having any symptoms for 6 years now. But everyone knows how extraordinary when it works, when it's done appropriately, modern medicine is. Mind-body, replace organs, hearts, I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah.
But it works. Of course, there are problems. We won't get into that because we, in wellness, always focus on positive aspects and lifestyle, not medical dramatics. But anyway, people rely too much on medicine and they rely too little on what they can do for themselves, rather than focusing on getting better through the use of technology and otherwise minimizing pain and figuring out what's wrong with you and so forth. People ought to give at least as much time to looking after themselves, becoming fitter, developing their lives so that they're having more fun, they have more meaning, they have better connections with other human beings. That is even more consequential. So that expression that I have, modern medicine, simply means don't over rely on something that's terrific when something even more terrific, what you can do yourself, is out there and available.
Amen. I mean, I could not agree with that statement more. There's something to be said about exercise and thinking positive and eating the right food. I mean, I feel like I did a video last week when I was on vacation just about how my mental wellness workout, because it's a daily practice. This is, I've always heard of yogis talking about their practice. Well, my practice, it has to be very disciplined, because if it's not, I suffer, my body suffers, but mostly my mind suffers from it. So even working in the medical industry for over 20 years, I'm probably one of the worst patients out there. Sorry, doc.
Well, listen, you've mentioned a couple acronyms. You haven't mentioned my most important contribution to the world in terms of acronyms. And that is, most people don't appreciate this still, even though it's been out there for a couple decades. And that is my discovery of the importance of DBRU equivalents. Are you familiar with that?
No, I'm writing this down.
DBRU equivalents. And as a PhD, I'm required to do double-blind crossover trials of a longitudinal, horizontal, dignified basis. And I did a study once and made this discovery. DBRU equivalents are based upon a cartoon, really, that was created by the Far Side artist named Gary Larson. And it shows a bunch of birds descending on a deceased critter. And one of the buzzards says to his friend, just think, here we are, the afternoon sun beating down upon us, a dead bloated rhino underfoot, and good friends flying in from all over. I tell you, Frank, this is the best of times. And my DBRU discovery was that we all need DBRU equivalents, best of time sensations on a regular basis. And the ideal number I discovered in my make-believe study was we need 21 of those suckers every day to really feel as if we're flourishing.
Yeah, so true. I love that. I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because I mean, it's really all about just embracing, and I feel like there's so much good out in the world, even when we're in whatever we're in. I almost don't want to give it a voice today because everybody's giving it too many voices. That I'm just looking outside at all of the trees and spending some time in nature, and knowing that I'm going to see my parents later, or thinking about having lunch with my family.
Doesn't have to be a big deal. It's not winning a lottery type thing or doing a triathlon and being happy with your performance. It's those little things you just mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's
go.
go.
Equivalents.
Yes, I love it. All right, I want to go to the next one. This one really cracked me up. RWR number 794, written February 13th, 2020, very recent. Why Goop is to wellness what Trump is to America. An obliteration and a disgrace. Ooh, well done, I must say. I mean, I laughed out loud when I read it. because, and then I read the whole thing. So we won't tell everybody about the whole, we'll let them read it for themselves. I highly recommend that you sign up for this. We'll put the information into the show notes, but
I haven't heard from either of them about this since writing that. But I hope to hear from, it would be nice to hear from the Goop girl.
it would be great if Gwyneth Paltrow decided to.
Wouldn't that be fun? She was in something I enjoyed recently. I can't remember the name of it, but she's really a good actress.
A very good actress. But as you mentioned in the article, she has made more money with Goop than she ever made.
Ever made.
Same as the boxer that you cited that has the
yes, has the barbecue or whatever.
Right.
George Foreman.
Right. Well, they created these brands and then they get to sell these products and it just, whatever they say goes.
My hat, if I had one, is off to them.
Yeah.
Terrific. Go for it. And nobody got hurt, really. Actually, Goop people could get hurt if they overdo it or if they take it seriously.
Right. Well, I laughed mostly because the first thing that you wrote on there, I've had a lot of medical clients through the years and I become like a test dummy. They want me to try whatever it is that they're selling. I've since removed myself from most of the aesthetic industries because, for reasons I won't get into now. But one of the first treatments I ever had was the PRP vampire facial. And that was like the first thing that you wrote on the top. And it's true. To think that it was being injected into my face and blood was pouring out.
Yeah. Well, people do crazy things. Remember when Michael Phelps was in the Olympics and he had all these welts on his body?
Yeah, the cupping.
Cupping, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Smart guy.
Yes. Anyway, I love that because I thought, what Goop is to wellness, what Trump is to America. I love it, Don. All right. There was something else that you wrote that stuck out for me, and that's what we do with our time matters a great deal, far more than the access to medical wonders, and even more than a real wellness mindset and lifestyle. So from that article about what you said about Goop and Trump, that chunk was really, really impactful to me. Real wellness mindset and lifestyle. So how would you define that?
Real wellness mind style?
Real wellness mindset and lifestyle. What does that look like for you?
Well, that is the essence of wellness. Essentially, it begins with those 4 dimensions that I described. Reason has to do with critical thinking, looking for evidence-based matters, not just in medicine, of course, but in terms of your investments, the people with whom you associate, the things you do, and the risks you take. And that reason is so vital, as opposed to pseudoscience or superstition. I have some strong feelings of an existential nature about the good life. I think life is short, and most people agree with that. One of my own heroes who lived from 1833 to 1899, namely Robert Green Ingersoll, said that life is a narrow veil between the cold and barren peaks of 2 eternities. We strive in vain to look beyond the heights. We call aloud, but the only answer is the echo of our wailing cry. And he has some wonderful stuff. He said, while I'm opposed to all orthodox creeds, I have a creed of my own. My creed is happiness is the only good. The time to be happy is now. The place to be happy is here. And the way to be happy is to make others so. This creed is somewhat short, but it's long enough for this life. And if there's another one somewhere, when we get there, we can make another creed, but this should work for now.
Well, it takes my breath away because I believe in that the most. I have that you are a big fan of Robert Green Ingersoll. You've certainly been citing his work for many years now. And it's simple, but it's so impactful and so very true. In that same article, newsletter that I was reading before that I mentioned, you had talked a little bit about wellness programs, right? That they should really focus on real wellness. So myself, I've, had the great honor of being able to speak at Franklin Templeton and some great places about mental health and mental wellness. And you and I were both on that recent global wellness talk with isn't it wonderful to join and have people in Italy and all over the world?
I loved your short video, 2 minutes, in which you gave praise to Zoom, and I thought it was so well deserved.
Oh,
And,
it's
I hope
true,
the
right?
Zoom, did you send it to the Zoom people?
Well, the Zoom people, so I put it on LinkedIn and Zoom responded and said, that made us so happy. And then,
Terrific.
right? You believe that? And because of that, just that I was because I do believe that so many people spend so much time in their own self and self-absorbed. And when you extend gratitude to somebody else or you praise somebody else, the good that comes out of that, right?
Was unsolicited. I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't a paid ad, and it was. If I had been a Zoom executive, I would have rewarded you richly.
You know,
And
hire, paid me $1 trillion. You hear that, Zoom?
well,
135 Kilgore. Okay, kidding.
yeah,
Well, seriously though, because wellness programs, and I've run medical practices. I ran one here in Clearwater for 8 years before I opened my business, and then up in New York, I was director of operations for New York Medical. And I was very blessed in the sense that my first boss, who I'm still very good friends with, Joanne Kadrevich, she was a real wellness guru. I mean, she used to talk about acupuncture, and she was running all of the time. And we would start our meetings with all of our practice managers, which we had 11 offices and 42 satellite offices. We would sit with them and we would meditate. And, they were like from the Bronx and Brooklyn. They were like, what are you talking about meditating before we have a meeting? But learning, in my 20s about how to live a life of more abundance through just simple wellness acts that you talk so beautifully about in all of your newsletters has been one of the greatest gifts that I've found in business, to carry that through all of these years. So, with professional wellness today and the obvious factors of what's going on with the pandemic and the loss of jobs and the horrific depression and anxiety that's happening, what are your thoughts about what employers should be doing? Because I know you also too were in medical administration many years ago.
well, I think it's wonderful that employers are offering wellness programs, at least in name. And I think that it would be a good idea to begin orienting the wellness programs a lot less on risk assessment and on employee problems and on other matters associated with medical matters, and even prevention is just kind of defensive. Let's not have bad things happen and move it towards, let's get good things to happen, and let the other stuff go to the medical department. Obviously people need medical care, and they need to be aware of what they might be doing to damage themselves by drinking too much or having bad behaviors, and bad in the sense that diminishes your physical well-being. So I would love to see employers do more in terms of real wellness, which means not just reason, but exuberance is another dimension that involves joy and laughter and fun and play and meaning and purpose and all kinds of matters associated with connecting with other people, shaping your environment so that you get reinforcement for doing the right things. And then the other area, of course, athleticism, which does receive a lot of attention. That's, of course, all the exercise aspects and the nutrition. Those should be treated as one area. We've separated two different professions, the dietitians and the exercise people, but those two areas are so closely associated or inextricably intertwined that we need to think of them as one topic. And then the other area is personal freedoms. We can do so much about that. We're all indoctrinated by our parents and by our friends and by our cultural connections and our schooling and so forth. Much of it is fine and positive, but not all of it is for many, many people. And by examining the assumptions and the beliefs that you have with an open mind, and whether or not they're really working for you and enable you to be as free as you might want to be, you might have some breakthroughs in terms of realizing that changes need to be made. I can have more real wellness if I change some basic beliefs that I have that I didn't come up with on my own. I just accepted from those who were around me. and influencing me in my formative years.
Mm. You know, and
Now,
I love,
anybody who's enthusiastic about religion isn't going to like this idea.
well, we don't really care about those people, Don. Right now, I'm in the midst of trying to get the superintendent of my 16-year-old stepson's school to email me back about, you know, I was so inspired by the summit that I was on yesterday about taking action that as soon as I got off that call, I reached out because there was, you know, some horrific racial discrepancy at my stepson's school. And I thought, you know, there's leaders in general have to just be brave and courageous. And we certainly need more of them. We don't have the greatest leadership right now running our country, but.
Well, that's an understatement.
Right, that really is. That was nice, actually, right? We have the biggest asshole running the country. How's that, Don? All right, there's the New Yorker coming out of me.
It's too kind.
It is that too. It's too kind. Okay, we'll think of some more adjectives later. But
just look at the Washington Post. The first page of the Washington Post every day. There are columns that go into detail having to do with the substantive problems that are being created related to the pandemic and absence of leadership, and the loss of separation of state, and the lack of appreciation for America that we had built up over centuries. And it's any day, look at any newspaper and read what columnists are saying and the evidence they present for it.
Well, it is, because it is so true. I mean, it only depends on the leadership, and even forget about him, because talking about him makes me a little bit nutty.
Right.
My parents coming over later, I'm quite sure I'll be hearing about him again. They're from Ireland, they're immigrants, so you can imagine how they feel, and from New York. So, but leadership in terms of like professional wellness and community and what we're not talking about. I love that, you know, with the acronym of REAL, that it stands for a reason, that we have to have more critical thinking, that we have to have these hard conversations, not just in our own personal lives, but we have to bring that to the corporate world. I mean, I said recently, somebody asked me about, you know, my business, and I've since removed, I used to go in and restructure medical practices. And I stopped doing it because it was affecting my own mental wellness. I couldn't believe that there was such horrible leadership inside of these organizations. And it takes somebody that is willing to listen to our community, to our employees, to our friends, and have a safe place to say, hey, you know, I'm not really feeling so great about what's going on in the pandemic, or I'm not really feeling so great about what's going on with you asking us to come back to the office. There has to be an opportunity for open communication and then critical thinking of our leaders, right?
Indeed.
Don, can you fix it for us?
I'll work on it. Write some more articles.
Well, you've only done about 1,000. So is there anything else that you want to leave with the audience? I know how grateful I am today to have been able to have this conversation with you, because I've been a fan that you didn't even know about from far away. But it took us to get onto a Zoom with the global wellness.
Well, you know how the Zoom people felt about getting your 2-minute video?
Mm-hmm.
That's how I felt about hearing about how delighted you were with some of the things I've written.
Oh, I'm so grateful. So grateful. I'm going to hope and pray that everybody out there reads more about you. It's like you are an icon right here in Tampa Bay.
Well, maybe. Anyway, perspective is very important. You know, our galaxy has 100 billion stars. It's 100,000 light years side to side. It bulges in the middle, 16,000 light years thick, but out by us, it's only 3,000 light years wide. We're 30,000 light years from galactic central point. This is all from the Galaxy song, by the way, from the meaning of life. I'll get to the end of it. The universe keeps on expanding and expanding in every direction it can whiz, as fast as it can go, the speed of light, 12 million miles a minute, and that's the fastest speed there is. And here's the bottom line. So remember, when you're feeling very small and insecure, how amazing and likely is your birth. And pray that there's intelligent life somewhere up in space, 'cause they're bugger all down here on Earth.
Bravo. I love it. Maybe you will join us for some karaoke on Zoom one of these days with my family. That would be
Well,
fantastic.
until that happens, just go to the Galaxy song on YouTube and enjoy the Monty Python people doing it.
Oh, that was so
Great
great.
song.
My parents are such fans of Monty Python. And that wonderful, wonderful opera singer that you said to me was just
nice.
fantastic music, right? I mean, it's so good for the soul.
Well, by the way, tomorrow's my birthday. I'm going to be in my 9th decade, and I
Yes,
think we
happy
should.
birthday.
Thank you. I think we should establish something, and that is no more senior citizens.
No,
We're perennials.
perennial.
Perennials. We're evergreens, maybe.
I like it.
No,
Well,
no
then
more
just for you, Don, I'm going to sing happy birthday. You ready? Here we go.
Okay.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Don. Happy birthday to you.
That is opera singer worthy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Don. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Stay well.
You too. So don't forget, if you mention that you have seen the show or listened to the podcast, Thai Technology, 3 months for free.